Hey everyone, welcome to Reading the Green and our golf DFS show. My name is Mike. I'm back, joined with Kyle and Jordan on October 18th, a Tuesday. We're going to preview the CJ Cup and talk about the ZOZO a little bit. And guys, I'm just happy to be back in the mix. As fun as it is to listen without being there, to listen to the show you guys put together, I'm happy to be back.
Welcome back. I wish you were gone for a different reason, like some epic golf trip, but at least you went somewhere warmer.
People are asking me,
you got to take advantage, Mike, of that high handicap right now while you can.
Well, I'll get to that in a second. You know, when you go to these corporate conferences, you know, people are like, "Oh, you're down in Phoenix, and well, it was 100 degrees. Did you enjoy that?" It's like I enjoyed not wearing a jacket from the hotel to the convention center, but you know how those things go. That's about all I did outside. So, all right, Jordan, the sandbagging claims. Obviously I listened to the recap of the RTG Invitational. I don't have much to add, really. You guys did a great job. Obviously on our Twitter, you can watch the highlight reel. Lots of highlights. It was super fun. Here's I think. I'm the one that complains about, you know, getting blown out in net events all the time, having always carried the low handicap and can't keep up and blah, blah, blah. But when it comes down to a chip off, is that not the handicap system at work? Did we not play 18 holes and come out exactly tied? Therefore, that is why you have a handicap system. Kyle's 25 handicap and I'm playing as a 0 and we end up tied.
Well, you had the two worst holes I've ever seen you play and still tied me.
Yes, you were what, like 8 strokes over after 3 holes, and then you ended up less than 8 strokes over. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm just saying it's the handicap system at work gave us a fair match, and I look forward to, you know, maybe this weekend you guys are a rematch. It's gonna be 70 degrees here in Minnesota.
Yeah. P. Rose always said his games were fair too.
I wish I'm not going to rematch this weekend. I wish.
Yeah, that was fun. It was fun.
Speaking of golf, you know, if you've been following along on our Twitter at all, Mike is not. In addition to the RTG Open next year, we're trying to set up a little contest with a dueling pod here located in Minnesota as well.
Yeah, the Fantasy Golf Pod, they've been around a while. They got a lot of traction, great following, great content. They pretty much everybody that's anyone in golf DFS engages with them on Twitter. So I challenged them. I threw the gauntlet out there. I was feeling pretty good after my RTG Invitational win and said, well, why don't we team up? And we'll go take those guys on next year. So they accepted. Now, I don't know about going up to, you know, Alexandria in May, but we'll see. Maybe it'll have to be something like a home and home or something. I don't know.
Yeah. How do we get them in our listener league? Let's see if they know what they're talking about.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll figure that out. That's some kind of collaboration has been a long time coming. So maybe this little match will be the start of it. We'll see. But so before we get into the ZOZO, I don't know, Kyle, you looked like you were drinking something delicious. Do you want to start this week?
Yeah. So as part, as the theme of us and my family, particularly over the last 3 months, we've been moving around a lot. We leave our current rental abode tomorrow. So I have no beer here. And my wife, right before we started recording, handed me a glass of wine. So drinking a glass of red wine, couldn't tell you what it is or anything about it. Cheers.
Stay classy, San Diego.
I don't see Kyle. I don't see Kyle knocking back the wine too often. So that's a treat. It is red, I guess, for the listeners. It is red.
It's a Pinot of some sort, I would imagine.
Okay.
Maybe. All right. I think it's a Malbec.
Oh, look at you.
Jordan.
I've got a all Nelson everything from Other Half, double dry hopped Imperial IPA. So, you know, just a single 8.5% beer tonight to put me to bed. But it is delicious, like all Other Half beers, even though it's been in my fridge for 6 months.
I'm not gonna say I made the same mistake. I went for an 8%er as well. I have a DDH double from Black Zach called Splash Pad. It is super pillowy. They did not overhop it like I feel like they do a lot of their beers. I actually really, really like this. I considered going out of my way to a different fridge to get something like a Czech Pilsner, but I figured you guys would make fun of me, so I just decided to suck it up and
We would
take
never,
the.
Mike. We don't make fun of. No, we would never.
No, you're right. Only when I'm not on the podcast. That's the best
Correct.
time to do it.
It's a lot more fun then.
Yes.
So wait, you have a beer fridge with higher octane beers and one with lower octane beers?
No, we had people over on Sunday afternoon for the Vikings game, and so a lot of the kind of Sunday afternoon friendly beers made their way into the main fridge. That's
Okay.
all. I kept the heavy ones out of the way, except for the 13.5% Fair State barrel aged from last year. I tried to get the group to open, and no one took me up on it on Sunday afternoon. So that'll be for another time. One of my
Any
favorites.
listeners? Can we make fun of them for not being up for a good beer?
No, I don't think anyone are listeners yet, but maybe eventually. There was I was doing a little bit of marketing. So all right, Zozo. I will be honest, I watched about, I don't know, 15 minutes of this on Saturday night. It was hard. I actually would have watched a little more on Thursday and Friday night. It was hard to find it. It just like even when the rounds started at 8:30 p.m. or whatever, it wasn't on TV.
Yeah, it was kind of maddening to me. That 8:30 to 10 o'clock window, I would have watched, especially Friday night. I would have watched quite a bit of it then. But the Golf Channel coverage didn't start till 10 or 10:30 or even
it was really tough. And that's we're Central time zone, like East Coast, just good luck.
Yeah. Hey, you have your chance at primetime TV Friday night with no NFL on, anything like that, and just nope. Okay.
Yep.
Nope.
Yeah, I think you made that point, Kyle, that like this time of year, given how Sunday viewership is going to be split, like they should be taking advantage of any TV time they got when NFL's not on.
Yeah, and I understand there's TV contracts at play, but you would think you would have some carve outs for unique situations, but apparently not.
And clearly, like ESPN Plus was not doing this event, so.
Yep.
So all right, well, I didn't watch much of it. Keegan certainly gets the win in the dark, I suppose. But Ricky is out there doing his thing. He's got the ancestral connections, and 90-degree rule was kind of asking, is he back? And I said, well, Ricky's only back. You can only say that if you have the guts to put money on him. And I don't think any of us here had the guts to put money on Ricky yet. Probably not for the rest of the year.
Nope.
Is he in this tournament this week? If he can string two together, I'll bet on it. I'll put some.
I think he's in the field this week.
But
speaking of which, we just have some jet setters, and I'll know we'll get to where this event's at and everything, but just crisscrossing the globe.
Yeah, that does. I was going to make a live reference, but these guys are not flying cushy private jets back and forth.
So question, did you guys see the DP World Tour was won by someone on the Live Tour? But he wasn't playing in the Live event, so does that mean he's already been kicked off the Live Tour?
Who was it?
Great question.
Yeah, well, there was while you look that up, in our we haven't talked Live in a while, but like there was a bunch of like Matt Jones was out doing an interview around the event this past week, and it was just kind of like shocking the things that he had to say about he's saying, and again it's just the feeder, whoever's feeding him these lines, but his point was like guys are out here grinding harder than they would have on the PGA Tour because they have more time to grind. Therefore, they have more time to put in their craft, and they're not just sort of slugging it out week after week. So the quality of play is actually better, which I'm not sure a single fan witnessed at the event in this one was in Jeddah, I think, right? Yeah. The pictures of the celebration after was like it's shot. There was nobody. There was like 13 people there, and they're doing the champagne spraying and the music and all that. And I was just like, boy, got a long ways to go here.
Yes, it was Adrian Otegui.
Okay,
who's Spanish. But I also don't know. Like I thought didn't they kick people off the DP?
Well, they move them on to the Asian tour. So
yeah, they were supposed to be off the DP World Tour, but then there was there was a loophole that let them back on to play because they've played, there was that one event where a lot of them were at, and Sergio left early to go to the college football game.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But yeah, it was just interesting that everyone's saying a Live Tour won it player, but he wasn't.
But he's not really playing on it. Yeah.
At the Live Tour.
Well,
anyway, yeah.
We'll come back. Let's come back to the PGA Tour here. Kyle's just about to lose his mind. On the ZOZO, we'll wrap up a couple things on the ZOZO. Listener League, Spicy One, getting the win. Haven't called his name in a while. Great week from Spicy One. Something called Diddy Yankton. Jordan, congrats on your second place. Kyle, we were talking about how hard it is to make money in the RTG League. I feel like I have great weeks, except my RTG entry, and I'm not really deviating. Maybe shaking up the player pool a little bit, but strategy is right there. I don't know what's going on. Jordan, you've found a secret.
I think I got dead last the 2 previous weeks. So, but I did change it this week. 2 weeks ago I went MPI and it was terrible. So this week I just went like top down of mentions. Actually, I made sure everyone was above 30 or 25% mention share. So much more powerful than the mention power index.
So yeah, we hit on that a little bit last week on the MPI, and specifically for some of these smaller cut events when we have our no cut smaller field events when we have less contributors. But to your point, Mike, the winner of the RTG Listener League last week had 547.5 in a $1 single entry GPP I was in. That would have been good enough for second place and took you home. This is a small field event, but a
Wow.
$30. So a 30x on yeah, so it's a tough league to win, but that's what makes it fun and competitive.
That's right. Sometimes I question, when our listeners are playing plays that are off, pivoting from our model, I'm curious where they get their advice from. I'm always a little impressed. But final thoughts, Kyle, ZOZO. I know you betting card wise, what do you feel like you missed out on Keegan a little bit?
I did. I've played Keegan a little bit, looked at him. He was the top of the model. I will say, Jordan and I talked about him quite a bit last week. Went there in GPP, stayed away in cash, and I think that was still the right approach with how volatile it can be because, hey, he caught fire with the putter and it worked out. But a lot of the industry was on him from a betting perspective. I unfortunately was not. Just looking at the model, poor performance from Decky, but I think for the most part, most of us stayed away there. I did just sprinkle as my pivot in the RTG League. But there was a lot of good values that popped up. Hayden Buckley, Emiliano Grillo, who's been great lately. And so overall, still led to a pretty good week in the cash contest. And I will say with Spicy One, he was on Victor Hovland, who did pop a little, who did well in the model. I stayed away. Just I struggle to play Victor Hovland when I know you're going to need some short game in most places. But he had Keegan, Matt Neesmith, and Grillo were really, those were the guys who carried him to victory.
You talked about value. So Jason Sobel, one of the contributors that we follow, he had his 2 DFS plays. One was Shoffley, No Cut King. The other was Kita Nakajima, who former top amateur in the world. Obviously plays in Japan, has played well in Hawaii. I decided to tail Sobel on that in my 20 max core, getting a lot of value at I think $6,100, and he finishes top 12. So I think he was the low Japanese finisher, if I'm not mistaken. So that was not Hideki, but that was Kita Nakajima. All right. Anything else on the ZOZO from you guys?
No, let's bring it back to the mainland.
All right. So, like you said, Kyle, we get some jet setters, and do with that what you will. If you think guys are going to have some jet lag going from Japan to Congaree in Ridgeland, South Carolina. All right. So we were debating this before the show. Kyle, the backstory on this course at Congaree, tournament's been played here. They played here last year, but why is this familiar, but we can't quite put our finger on it?
Yeah, so the CJ Cup has not been here in the past. It's bounced around. Originally supposed to be in Korea, but COVID's kind of thrown all that for a loop. So we're going to Congaree, which has held the 2021 Palmetto Championship. that was won by Garrick Higo. But was a pretty weak field overall. So that's an important thing to know. And then something to keep in mind if you're looking at model output and recommendations this week. If they're basing it on that 2021 Palmetto Championship, that's just 4 rounds and a fairly weak field overall. I believe 11 under won that week. But based on those 4 rounds we do have, it's the course kind of played out for a bomber bias. And also a bias towards Southeast players that are familiar with this type of setup. There is no rough, so there's natural runoff to these sandy waste areas, which you might see in the lowlands of South Carolina and some of the Florida courses a little bit. For a comp, some of the courses or some of the articles and mentioned Kiowa Island and South Carolina obviously is a good comp. So I think overall it's a top 30 course in a newer course and it's a little bit of a different stop than normal PGA stops. So I think it will make for pretty good viewing this week. And hey, we got a strong field.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like you said, it'll be interesting to compare the field playing here this year compared to who played here last year at this course specifically. When I was listening to some of the pods we like to tune into, and they're talking about the style of course, it made me think of Pinehurst, somewhere that I've been fortunate to spend a few trips at. And especially the redesigned Pinehurst, which they did the same thing. They eliminated all the rough. Not that like the Bermuda rough there was anything to talk about before. It was only maybe 2 inches long, but they eliminated everything, and everything in the fairways just runs out into the waste areas, and it has lots of that love grass, sort of like wispy tufts of like shin high grass. And what I think is interesting is, okay, so fine, you're going to favor bombers, they're going to rip it all over the course. If you get offline, it comes down to luck. There it is, like, does your ball end up in a tuft, next to a tuft, on a clean lie, on a footprint? Like, is it on the side of the tuft where your club is the hossel's gonna hit the tuft versus, on the other side where you get a clean look? It's kind of interesting how I don't know how much, especially the really good drivers of the ball, are really gonna be playing out of there. But if you're in it, it is not just like missing a fairway and being in the rough. It is, you get luck of the draw.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. When we say the bomber and lean, I think 8 of the top 15 in the placement at the Palmetto were in the top 15 of driving distance that week as well. That said, I have read a little bit too of you don't have to necessarily be long though if you're in the fairway because it plays dry, it plays fast. Some of the inspiration was kind of some of the Australian courses, so you do get a lot of run out. And if you can be good with your long irons, that can kind of counteract some of the distance part of it. So there's multiple ways. And with only 4 rounds of data here, you will hear a lot of different takes. And I think that's another reason see a lot of value in how we look at things in weeks like this, because you can kind of get those different narratives and not necessarily just focus on one path.
Well, do you want to jump into the model?
I was on last week still, so
Like,
I
wait,
have
did we
not written
lose
the wrong
Kyle?
one.
I got real quiet right there.
Yeah, I was like, oh crap. All right, leading the way, I don't think this is going to surprise anyone when we talk about long, accurate drivers, but Rory McIlroy at 43% mention share. A little meddling on the MPI at this point in time, but as we normally talk about on Tuesday, still have a couple coming in, which might bring that up if he gets some love tomorrow. Next is John Rahm, coming off a win over in Spain in a much lesser field event, but 37% mention share and pretty strong on the MPI. Matt Fitzpatrick, 9,800 on the salary at 37 on the mention share. And then we have a gaggle of folks at 31%. I'll just list off those names real quick. Aaron Wise, JT, Max Homa, and Shane Lowry.
So where do you start?
I think I'm going to have to go Rory. And it's going to be tough from that price point at 11-1 to get him in, be overweight on him. But on a cash contest, he's going to have to be a core part of the lineup. You look at betting odds, he's down to 650 plus 650 at DraftKings, which I'm not sure if even Rahm made it there at Mexico last year, and when he was much better than the rest of the field. So it's very likely he's going to win, and I will try to make it work as much as possible with that price point. After that, I'm going to go down to Aaron Wise, 31% mention share, 83 on the MPI currently. Rotoballers on him, Number Fire, RotoWire, and coastal courses. He's got good history on coastal courses, and he has got good history in pretty strong field events. And so I like him to save some money for us at 7,800 as well. And then back to a form play for me. My third, I'm gonna use Max Homa at 91. 31% mention share, right around 60 in the MPI, and I think he's going to be at a good price point to start, your more balanced build type lineups.
I fully back the Rory play. I agree it's gonna be tough to be overweight at that price point, but his form is incredible, and I think that people are probably not realizing that I think he has 4 top 5 finishes in his last 4 starts, or 3 top 4 finishes in his last 3 starts. Like he's been kind of dominating the DP World Tour circuit for the last handful of weeks, and that's been out of the public eye, at least in the US for a little while. So he's been playing great, and we knew he finished last year playing great, and he's still playing great. So it just feels like you got to hammer that. Plus 650 is crazy in this field to think that he is that much of a favorite. I'd rather go and take, you could take JT at plus 1600, and it's not unreasonable to think that he's going to go and win this. So, but I like backing Rory. I would like, Shane Lowry at our currently ranking out at the top of our power index. An $8,300 Shane Lowry, a guy that can hit the ball great, accurate, masterful short game. I like that. And then another guy that I think is value, but the form isn't there, is Morikawa. 9K for Morikawa. I was actually going to compare him to Homa and just say, like, on paper, you look at these guys and you would say, who has the higher ceiling? And Morikawa has had the higher ceiling in the past. You're not going to see Colin at 9K very often, and so that really intrigues me. The only problem is he's an anti-model play, and I don't know if I'm just absolutely crazy going there. So have a little more thinking to do on that the rest of the week.
Morikawa is someone I looked at betting last week. If we look to go a little bit more up board, and I considered it briefly again this week as well. I think there's, yes, it's some value, and maybe look at that from a GPP pivot perspective, or if you want to dive into the betting market just because of what you can get for at that price point.
Win equity with him,
yeah. Pat Mayo is all over that. So he was an auto bet on Morikawa, approaching 30, and at that price point he'll be in. And I can't say he's going to be a cash anchor for me though.
I agree with that. Jordan, anything you'd like to add?
No, you can put a pretty good team together this week with the top of the model, which usually, you're hunting for someone in the 6,000s or wherever, and you aren't really happy with at least one player. But I couldn't pass up Matt Fitzpatrick at 9,800. Getting $1,300 off of Rory. I know Fitzpatrick played trash last week and missed the cut in Spain, but I don't put a lot of weight in that. I think he was doing his civic duty more than wanting to win a golf tournament. So I've got Fitzpatrick, Homa. I'm doing down in the 7,000s. Cam Davis and Russell Henley are all getting some model love. I think they're all above 25% or close. I think Davis is a little below, hoping a few more votes come in for him. But there's a lot to like in the model this week. You don't have to go all the way down. Who's our Davis Riley is our first 6,000 person.
There's some love on Davis Riley this week, despite just being a disaster in Japan for the first 2 rounds. He actually played pretty good on the weekend, and so if you want to believe that he's going to carry 2-round weekend form into this week, I actually don't mind a $6,900 Davis Riley.
Especially someone we've paid 9,000 for recently.
I know. Different field, but 6,900 is incredible value for him after shooting 2 pretty good rounds. So, yeah, good point, Jordan. We do have some good value at the top, and Kyle already mentioned Aaron Wise, also a 7K player that probably sets up to this course pretty well.
Yeah. So, question for you though, very last person in the model right now. Tom Kim, 8,900. No Tom Kim love this week.
I think
I'm trying to look.
Yeah, I think the hesitation there is, well, he's been playing a lot. He's one of those guys that went from the President's Cup to Las Vegas to Japan, now back to South Carolina. Granted, he's young, and that's probably not going to affect him a lot. But he doesn't have a lot of length off the tee, and I think the combination of those things and not a great showing last week relative to what he's done is leading to how we're seeing him recommended this week.
You also got to imagine that someone like him, like he hasn't stopped. He has been operating at 150% for like the last 5 months. And eventually he's just got to like take a break. And this might be it.
What do you need to take a break for? You guys couldn't golf every week?
It's not just that.
20-something flying first class. I know we've had this conversation before of them getting tired.
It's not just that. It's like the energy level that he operates at, or he has been. Like he's like found himself. And I know Tiger, Tiger was able to do it and all that, but that's kind of once in a multiple generations, Kyle.
If you are looking for a reason to play Tom Kim this week, one angle I did hear, and I wish I remembered which pod this was on, but Tom Kim, we have talked about this previously, was raised much of his life in Australia. And this course takes a lot of, inspiration from Australian courses. And they did have a little bit of correlation there at the Palmetto Championship with some of the Australian players playing pretty well. So maybe there's an angle there if you squint pretty hard.
All right. Well, Kyle, do you want to jump over to tiers?
Yeah.
See if we got any angles there.
Yeah, looking at tier 4 this week, I think that's one that shakes out pretty clearly using the model to weed through it. We have Shane Lowry, Taylor Montgomery, Corey Connors, Hideki, Keegan Bradley, Tyrrell Hatton, and Sahith. So a lot of guys we've been playing quite a bit lately, but the model, as Mike mentioned, is really all over Shane Lowry this week. Really strong on the MPI, highest mention share. So I think he's going to be our play in tier 4. And, guys like Corey Connors, these are large greens, high 3-putt percentage relative to other tournaments. I can't trust him with the putter in his hand. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have Taylor Montgomery, who is a great putter, but another guy that's been playing a lot. You have Keegan coming off the win. Hideki's not been playing great. I think Shane Lowry's the place to go.
Feels like a good spot to hammer this week. All right. Name game. We are prepped for the name game. And now, Kyle, you put all this in there and you wanted me to reread the Japan Tour players so I get a crack at pronouncing them this week.
Yes, we decided last week Jordan is much better at it than I am. So we're going to see where you fall on the Jordan to Kyle scale.
All right, here we go. Very quickly. So the winner, Jordan, by a long shot with Kita Nakajima and Satoshi Kodaira, besting my duo of, oh man, I should have looked at these names before I started to read them, Yudo Katsuragawa and Tomoharu Otsuki. I ended up finishing last with that duo, and then Kyle with Takumi Kanaya and Kazuki Higa finishing a little bit behind Jordan. How'd I do?
Pretty close to Jordan, but
there was one in there that you sounded like you sneezed, but the rest of them were pretty good.
All right. Well, I've been to Japan once. It was 20 years ago, and I probably lost whatever I learned in that short week. So here's what we got this week. What's the name of it? What tournament are we playing in? What's the name of the tournament?
CJ Cup.
CJ Cup. CJ. Let's pick teams of C's and J's.
I pick Cooper Cup.
Cooper Cup. Cooper Cup. He probably
Nope.
would do all right, is my guess. C's and J's. So I have 4 teams, and we will each pick one duo, and we'll call it most total points. DK Classic Scoring will win. So your duos, the total salary will range from 15,300 to 16,500, so all within $1,200. Your first duo is Corey Connors and Jason Day. Corey and Jason.
Who picks first?
I lost.
Okay, so does losers go first or does winner pick first?
Losers go first.
Okay.
Well, on that
I needed
record,
to. This is
Jordan
why
has
then I don't
5
need to
wins
pay
on the year.
attention.
Mike has 3. I have 1. And the listeners, it sounds like the listeners get a team this week, but the listeners
will get a team this week. So listeners, please chime in on Twitter. Well, I guess we'll just give you the team, the fourth team, because we only have 4. So there you go. Corey Connors and Jason Day, followed by Cam Young and JJ Spawn, totaling 15,300. You can choose Ches Reavy and Justin Thomas, totaling 16,200. Or you can choose Cam Davis and Jordan Spieth, totaling 16,500. When I put this together, I knew the team I was going to pick. I didn't realize I was going to get to pick first. Kind of overlooked that point. So this is good that I made the game and get to pick first. So I'll go ahead and take the high price guys, Cam Davis and Jordan Spieth. I actually don't know that Spieth is a great fit for this course, but those are the guys I want. So I'm going to take Spieth and Cam Davis. Kyle, you get next.
Take Cameron Young and JJ Spawn.
All right.
So
mine are Connors and Day.
Yep.
And Reavy
and JT.
JT. Let's do them.
Okay. All right. So the listeners.
Ches Reavy top 15 last year here.
Well, there you go.
At the Palmetto or the CJ Cup?
Palmetto.
Jordan does his research. All right. So Corey Connors and Jason Day going to the listeners. Kyle loving Corey Connors this week. So a lot of hope for that squad.
Prove me wrong, Corey Connors. Prove me wrong.
All right. Final thoughts. Kyle, you have the betting card this week. Final thoughts.
Yeah. With last week, we kind of played it out on the pod. Do I go the top of the board? Do I go down board like I normally do? Went the down board route, and it did not work out. So turns out betting in Japan is not for me. Coming back with vengeance this week. Rory, we already talked about 650. Can't go there, but I think there's a big likelihood he wins. That's not my cup of tea. So I'm going Aaron Wise at 45-1. Sam Burns at 28-1. Kind of off. I'm not playing this guy in DFS, but going there betting wise, Victor Hovland 28-1. And then my favorite play of the week, Keith Mitchell at 70-1. So all those guys were top 30 strokes gained off the tee in this calendar year. So that's what I'm kind of weighting heavily. And then for my 5th play, Mike, you just mentioned him. Looking for those magic beans a little bit, and some of these funky lies and
That's what it takes with this guy.
Crown greens and everything, but Jordan Spieth 22-1.
You had a couple dart throws here. I can't believe Davis Riley 100-1. That feels automatic given his upside.
Yeah. So Mike said we listed out a couple darts too. If you're looking to get a little deep value, Davis Riley 100-1, Kurt Kitayama 131, especially if you're looking for a first round leader. And then Luke Liss, if you really want to play up that Bombers narrative, 150.
All right. That's good stuff. I'm excited to watch this. I mean, Kyle, you got me pumped in the course preview with kind of watching a golf course we haven't seen a whole lot. And so maybe at least that's something to tune into.
I agree. I am excited. Which most of the events this fall kind of take them or leave them. But yeah, I think this is going to be a good one. Good field, fun course. And I got to go beat you guys in the listener league. I think it's time I pop up there again.
Give it a try.
I'm just going to go win it this week.
Well, I'm not playing golf this weekend. I'm out of town. Kyle, sounds like you're out of town. You're not playing golf this weekend. Jordan, might truly be the last beautiful weekend. So
I was just looking at tea time Saturday afternoon. I just 9. I only need 9, right? I don't need to
Scratch
go
the
out and
itch.
play 18. Let's go. I mean, go get 9.
Nap
be
time
done.
for the kids. You squeeze 9 in. Scratch the itch.
I have to go to a
That's-
wedding. Who
Wait,
gets
are you
married
talking
in the
about?
fall?
Are you talking about my wife or golfing, Mike?
Oh boy. Save the best for last.
I haven't had any inappropriate jokes in a while, but you're talking about squeezing 9 in and scratching an itch.
Yeah, you're due. You're due.
You are due. All right. Well, obviously our shows are available on Wednesday mornings on any podcast platform, on our YouTube channel, Reading the Green, and you can follow us any day, anytime on Twitter at RTG Podcast DFS. We'll be back in a week to talk about the CJ Cup at Congaree and then preview the Bermuda Championship